Hey people, this isn't your mama's Bible story. So the other day, one of my reptilian friends had posted this picture of Noah's Ark on Facebook, and that's just a holler from God to me to tell me to investigate, and I always do, and it always works out that I learned something else that I was working on. So I always chase it down, and so by reptilian, I mean that he's got the ability to drive down a road and take pictures and keep us all posted. He can take care of business with one eye, and he can keep on searching. He's awake and searching. The professor is. So I knew I'd read this before, but it was before I had learned the punctuation secrets. And so I was going to go back and read it again, but I checked up on what was known about Noah's Ark, and it's the only place you can find the writings. It's nowhere in none of the biblical writings except Genesis 6 through 9. And in the others, all the other stories have a flood, but not with Noah, and the name is Sudra, the zoo, and that's a clue right there. The zoo of Sudra. So I went on here to Genesis 6 and checked it out, and it doesn't till 14. And before 14, it's God's telling Noah how evil the world is. And then at 14, he's telling Noah to create this ark. And here in Greek, it's called a kubaton of Zulon wood. And he tells him all the dimensions and how he's to make it until 6:22, the last line of 6. And it says, and Noah did, and he did what God gave him charge to do, and so he did it. And then the next line in chapter 7 is the flood's coming. It's time to get on. So it really doesn't tell the story of Noah building it, but it gives some clues if we go back to 1. So here at 6:15, when it's telling the dimensions, it's saying that the length of the ark is the ark of the tabby. So this is where our word ark come from. I guess there's been a mistake in the many years, but an ark length is measured in degrees. It's not measured in units of linear measurement. It's an arc is a degree, and the tabby would be the house on top of a boat, and the tabby is writings, the tablature, and so this is the arc of the writings, the aim. The cubits of length of the ark, the aim to arc the tabby. And so this is way it was read by people who didn't understand the punctuation, but now this A tells me to read this word backwards. So this is really the care of the tabby, the care of the house. So I use this Bible Hub. It's easy, and if I want to know more about a word, I can click on it, and it'll bring me to some of the places it's used, and I can read everywhere it's used and get a better idea of what it means, and then it gives me a better idea knowing that all these other words have the same meaning. It only comes up 19 times here, a total of 143, being it has all these other words given the same meaning. And this doesn't mean anything, because there can be many other words with the same meaning, or the same word could have different meanings, and they'll just put it somewhere else so it doesn't relate. But the first thing I do is I I come down to the bottom here to consonants only, and I don't read all this little punctuation. It was added too late, and I haven't even tried to understand it yet. It might have something to do with, but it doesn't affect my reading. So this consonants only will bring me up to the paragraph, and this gives me a better idea. It shows me the lines, and it shows me where this P, this picture, used to be in this Bible after this fourth line, this not here, and more pictures after the eighth line, and sometimes it's just this S here. Sometimes it was just a seal that went with the writings to help understand it. And I'll scan over the beginning words to see where it's going to. And here's the wage to make the work, and here's the where of to make the first knowledge of where, and then the yammer, quit your yammering, and God said, the yammer, the noise, the communication, not necessarily spoken communication, but it means communication. And then we have 4, the nipplum, the nipple to work from. Nipple is a width. The nipples, and this is all in masonry and seamen's language. The nipple is the nips for short, and that backward is a span, and it's because this span was already used for the spin, so we use the nipple for this other word. And here's the where, to make the first knowledge, W-I-R-A, where you. And so this was the easiest case I ever cracked. I go back to 1, and this first word here, I pulled it off and posted it where everybody could see it here. And I put the Greek beside it. Could I do this when I fully understand a line? I put the Greek beside it, and it helps to understand the Greek as I learn the Greek writings. And so the first thing it says is the wage, the W-I-E-I. And so this I is the J. Don't let them tell you there wasn't no J until after King James. They don't know what they're talking about. The J, the I, and the Y is all the same letters, and when you read alchemy, you learn when and what, but it all means the same thing. It's a hand, and it means the work, to make the work. And then the key is to give the works, and then we have this hyphen after it, and that tells me to read the next word backwards and then forwards. And so where people that didn't understand would have read this to wage the keel, the K-I-E-H-L, to wage the keel. But if you understand the alchemy, and this hyphen is telling you to read this word backwards. And so now it says to wage, to keel the hull. And so everybody, old timers in Biloxi, Mississippi, knows to keel a hull doesn't mean to build a boat. To keel the hull is an existing boat, and you strip off the superstructure, you strip off the mast and the tabby on top, and you flip it upside down, and you start ripping all the old rotten wood off, and to keel the hull is to rebuild the hull of the atom, the old hull of the atom, of the L rib, the bind rib, the 12 ribs, the atom of the 12 rib. And so this atom of the 12 rib could be seen here. This is the ancient atom of the 12 rib. Adam was a calendar. Oh, Adam's calendar. And it's got 12 ribs here. And as time goes on, as precession of equinox goes on, it fades 1 degree every 72 years. And so after many years, You know, once you get 30 degrees added up there, it's time to shift. It's time to shift this. It's time to rekeel the whole hull of the atom. And so even in the ancient time of Adam, they had Jesus there. This says Jesus wide open in the ancient language. If you can't read it, and you see that these are horses. These are horses. The horses would be spelled Sus, S-U-S, Sus, the horses. And G, the G is the work, to work the horses. And you can see who's working in the horses here, and he's enlightened. His mind is bright and working. That light's turned on. And you can see the little gears down here that's turning the machine. This is all the machine that's turning. All the machine is turning the system. And this is G, holding the ropes. He's got his ropes in his hands. He's working the horses, to right the horses. Jesus. And so I didn't learn the Hebrew language. I learned the ancient letter meaning chart, and all the definition of the word is inside the word. And sometimes it's coded in the numerology of the word, but usually the meanings are right here. And you can decode most any words. And so if you see one you don't know, try to decode it with the meanings. So sometimes I pull the Greek up and put beside it, try to line up the words, and sometimes it's because I understand the Hebrew side and I'm trying to get a better understanding of the Greek, and sometimes it's because I'm trying to decode the Hebrew still, and I use the Greek some, and what I've learned from this is this Greek Bible was written thousands of years after. This Hebrew come first, and the things in the Hebrew Bible that were honored, that they honored here, when you find them on the Greek side, they try to down them, and this is where your word kooky come from, and wacky. And when it's talking about an astrologer here in the Hebrew, it'll be the wacky task. I believe it's the first time you see it in Genesis 1. It's called the wacky task, or the kooks. The KK is the stars, and so they put a U in between there and made them the kooks, the kookies that read the stars. And so what's this saying here? Beginning of 6, the wage to keel the hull, to rebuild the hull. We got to change the astrology of the atom, or had from. You see it here, had from, Ben had, of past time. The 12 rib, all, and then you see the hyphen here, all, and so we read this backwards and then forwards, all in ping. Ping is a position. What's your ping? All in place of the Adama. You see it now, it has an E on the end. And had from life. That would be the physical things on earth. All in the place of the physical earth here. To bin what? To the daughters. The bin is the sons, or they call it the sons, but it's the times, the bings of the times. And usually it's the bing and benet. And it's the time to bin what? So this ben what? This is where your word a bodun come from, or to benut. To benut is to what's had from. And then this is the word to make led to. This is the word all the way through when it says and somebody took their wife and make led to were born. To make led to bind them, lem. Lem is to take the mark of, to take properties from, to be like, but to bind them, the mark of what's found on that position. And so in the Greek, we see it's still got this wage here, this key. Sometimes it's in the middle of a word, but everywhere, not everywhere, but when you see a vav beginning a word in the Hebrew, it'll be the key on the Greek we'll put there. And you can just move it on over, and you can see this wage in two. And this genitu, you could read that as the genitu, the generation of the creation. And this is the word and through the beginning in Genesis 1 when it says is created, is the genitu, the creation. And every time it says to make the work, the wage, they replace it with, and it just happens so to be. Or every time it says and God said and there was, it actually says to make the work. Somebody's actually doing the work. And then we see this when the Hanukkah. The Hanukkah is the ribs, the Hanukkah of the hours on two. The hours on two, the 12 ribs. And so they understood what this meant, but when the Greeks wrote this, seemed like they had a hatred for this knowledge for many years, and a lot of the names became derogatory. But they seen it was superior knowledge, and so they had to put it back in their writings. And possibly it's just from years of the gods not acting right because they had the clocks wrong. The procession had them messed up, and so they were angry with the gods. And then we can see here more the ginstay. The ginstay is a gin pole is what you use for lifting the mast. You have a big tall mast. You have a shorter pole that you can handle. You tie it to that mast to raise it, a gin pole. Or sometimes a gin pole is used with a boom operation for moving cargo, a gin pole. And so the gin stay, that's the wire that would run from the front of the boat up to the gin, or wherever it's running to hold the gin, wherever that gin's positioned at. So I'm going to come on here and so we can scan through quicker. And we see this word for the bind rib, or the 12 rib. They've given the meaning to multiply. And so come up here to 2, and it says whereof being, where of the time, the bings of time, from the yell. And the yell is has several meanings, but this is this is going to read both ways because it's got the tack here. From the yell of the Elohim, from the yell of the gods. And the yell is the language of the heavens, the language of the stars. From the yell of the Elohim. 2. This got an A in front. We're going to read it backwards. 2. T-A. 2. To tune. We got a hyphen here. We're going to read this backwards first. So this is T-U-N. Tune banut. To tune in what? The tune in banut. The had from, the past. The tune in what from the past. To give tablet. Tablet is writings. Tablature, writings, numbers. And so this is the word where they put a multiply on the last. So for rib, this is really the multiply here, and it says the tabatine, the E-N-E. And so so we break this down with the letter meaning chart, is to collect in the writings. This is the tet, the T for collection, to collect, B, house, T in writings, to collect in writings of the cycles of life. And so this is the word 10 right here, the tab 10. And so this 10 has the same meaning as ten, but it doesn't have the same meaning as 10. This has the meaning of 60, and we can see here this is the 555, the tabateen of 60s. And so 10 having the same meaning, 10 means the ten, to seal the cycle. And so when you count up to 9, you go to 10. To seal the cycle is to 10. But the seal of the cycles, when they're counting, they're usually counting in 60s, because everything in life counts by 60s. Everything that has to do with time and degrees and circles, everything is 60s. And they could do much quicker multiplications on their fingers counting in 60s than in 10s. And so this tabateen here is the tabateen of 60s, and it was a thing of beauty, because when you count with 60s, you become an instant genius when you learn how to count with 60s. And then we have this word here, to jack to. This is the word all the way through the Bible that's pretty similar to this, the JQH. This is where your word coochie, cock, and fuck comes from. And I'm going to try not to say that because I lost some viewers last time I said that. And so we could take that as to fetch, to go fetch. But here, this fetch, to fetch the limb of the nice from, the nicum, as means that fits perfectly. To fetch limb of the nice from, it means that it fits like a glove. It means to fuck. From the cull, Michael, from the colors, in divide first to divide the first colors is the 12s. You have a set of colors of 12s, and then those are divided by 3, so you have 36 after that. But this is in Haru, in Horus. The colors in Haru, in the horizon. So 3 explains a little bit more, and to keep this short, I'm gonna get on to what I know everybody's interested in, the Nephilim, up here to 4. The nipple, to make from. The works connected. The nipple is the part sticking out at the end, the little tab sticking out on the end. The nipple, to make from. The works connected, bears. To bears in the Jimmy. This JMIM, this is given the meaning days a lot, and I believe it means the symbol for the day. And they had many symbols for day. They had a different name for every day of the year. That's the Jimmy, and it has to do with first names and last names of the sun and the moon. It creates the name of that day, and that day will have a different name in the next year because the sun and moon's different. In the Jimmy from, the life from, to Jimmy the life from, to game. And the mighty man here we see is the governing. The govrum. The emi is the blood, to bind, to limb, to bind from, to take mark of them, the blood governing. That was your Nephilim, your government, the man governing, a mighty man governing. And I want to get to this word for rotten and wickedness. We see here the wickedness, where you give rib the rot, where you key rib the rot, where the rib is keyed into the hull was rotten. And so this isn't a new boat, but this is the old boat of the head from. The old Adam had rot. The times changed and it had to be rebuilt. And so, long story short, Noah didn't build an ark. Noah took the old ark of the Adam, and Noah cleaned the rot out of it and straightened it up, and the magic became strong again. And it was after this that the language had to be changed, because over there in Babel they done put all this magic back together, and this magic was too much for him to handle. So then up here at 14, when it tells him to go build an ark, it says the Wash Lake Tabby. And you see the tabby here, it used a different T now. It's using the same T here. And so this wash, this O-S-E. And this is the I to consume life. And that means your mama knows where you've been when she does your wash. The wash has several meanings. And it means the end of a cycle. Your clothes only good for 7 days, and you got to wash them on the Sabbath. And so the Wash Lake Tabby is the writings of paint. Wash is also a paint. You're going to whitewash your fence. Wash is a color. To the Wash Lake Tabby are the writings of the colors. And then the oxy of gopher, the wood of gopher. So this gopher isn't used anywhere else in the Bible. This is the only time it's talked about, and nowhere else in the world is written about. Nobody even knows what gopher wood is, and that's because it's got a hyphen up here, and this don't say gopher. This is a R-P-G-P-R, and so the oxy here is the ox. The ox is what pulled your plow back then. It was the beginning of alpha, the ox. The ox to make first open the first page, PG, the first page, to open first, to finish from the toes. You start from the head, everybody gets 30 degrees. You got 12 30s, fills your 360. Everybody gets 30 degrees. You start at the head, hit the ox, first page to open first, and then finish from the toes to mark the wash, the end cycle, the toes. And then we have the tabby here again, and it's spelled with an E in front of it, but now we've got this hyphen 2, and so it's not the T. So this EBT is habit, the habitat in. EBTETBE. The habit, the tabby, the people living in the tabby, the habiters. And then this word, it says to cover the ark, to copper seal, to KPRT, to copper seal. And so copper seal is something I still buy at the boat store to dip my net. I put it in copper seal, that green dip you put your net in. You put it on wood. That's the green treated wood you see. That's copper seal. To copper seal, to keep the old boat from rotting, cover it with a copper seal. And so it's written in and to make it look like they're working on a boat, but the people in the know that it's all about astrology. And to copper seal, to eat, to ETA, at or et, it, it's a good word for that. It, from bite, from in the work seal, from the bite, from the house. To muchus, too much, M-H-U-X, too muchus in copper, too much copper. Put a lot of copper on the house. And I've got so much open on my computer, it's probably going to take forever to load this. And I'm going to cut this off here And the other morning I woke up, the full moon must have did. I woke up with much knowledge, and I looked at the at Genesis 1. I looked at the whole chapter, and I seen these two words that jumped out at me, and it helped me decode this. And I'm gonna work on putting all this Genesis 1 up beside all the pictures that went with it and get it all explained. But this was the clue on the first day here. It says, to make fair from the yell all him ark two. And the wall here has me reading this backwards, this little part. And this only happens 2 times in the Bible. It happens here at 5, and then it happens here on 10 again. To make fair from the yell all him ark two. This is the captain of the ship. This is the captain. To make fair, these are the big dogs. And that has to do with day 1 and 2 was the day of Ra, to row the oar. And then it has to do to make fair from yell all him ark two. And it has to do with bind the ibis. To the day to tree the ibis. We'll see it over here. The day to tree the ibis. And that really helped to decode all of this. And this puts everything in the whole Bible. It puts it all in perspective. And I'm going to work on getting a movie up with pictures of all these words. And from after that, you should be able to read the whole Bible and understand it. So I'm going to cut it off here. People, good day. The Bible is the most valuable book ever written, and the Christian story has been going on long before, and the new story is just to keep you in the dark. And nobody ever wanted you to be able to read this. It's only for the governing bodies.